All right, everyone, it is Friday, and you know what that means. It is time for Manufacturing E-Commerce Success, and I am one of your co-hosts, Damon Pistolka, and today we're going to be talking about small changes for explosive sales growth, and I'm so excited for this. I'm just going to turn this over to my friend, partner in crime, Kurt Anderson. Take it away, my friend.
Damon, happy Friday, dude. What a great day it is. It's just a great day to have a great day, as our friend Eddie Saunders likes to say. So let's just dive in. This is long overdue. We have our dear friend Sidney Wormsby here today. Sidney, how are you, dude? Happy Friday, man.
Doing well. Thanks for having me here and inviting me.
Oh, what an honor, privilege. You and I connected. We actually connected, if I'm not mistaken, through Fuse Hub, which is the New York State Manufacturing Extension Partnership Program, MEP. And so you and I had a great conversation. So this was long overdue. So honored to have you on the program here. But you have a wonderful story. I want to dive into your business, your expertise. We're talking about operational excellence. But before I go there, I do have one question I'd like to hit you with. When you were a little guy growing up, who was your hero?
Oh, well, I wasn't ever big on sports heroes and all that kind of, I had my favorite teams and all that. But probably the person, like most kids, the person you look up to your most is your dad.
Nice.
And so, kind of how responsible he was, how he was always there and present. I played baseball, in college and, a little bit after. And, he was an excellent baseball player. My first coach, my best coach that I've ever had. So taught me all that I knew about baseball. But also, most of the stuff I even do today and the way I live my life comes from the way my parents raised me. And, obviously he was a big part of that. So probably my biggest, hero or heroes, first my dad, and then on the softer side of things, my mom. All that I am and the way that I am, I keep seeing in them in everything that I do. So,
well,
that sounds hokey and mushy, but
not
true.
Not
it's
whatsoever.
True.
We love that answer. We love that question. We ask that every week, and we hear all sorts of different answers. But you were sharing a little bit, and this teed up perfectly because we were talking about Dad before we went live, and you said, God bless. And what was Dad's name?
Hollis.
Yeah. Hollis, and what an inspiration in the military. And So, in the military, and just, what an inspiration. And you shared, some really exciting things like, hey, no matter what you did, you be the best at that. Can you just share a little bit what we were just talking about before we went live?
Well, actually, we were talking about my company name, which is Uirtus Et Decus, which, is Latin for either, honor and distinction or excellence and distinction. And I chose that name because of two things. One, what I believe I was taught and how I was raised by my parents, to be honorable, to be responsible, and to distinguish yourself, through excellence in the way that you did things. So that was one reason. But then also what I wanted to impart in my clients, that excellence and distinction. How do you distinguish yourself from, again, the way that you execute and the way that you deliver? And so, he and my mom were, big parts of, again, why I am the way that I am. And, therefore, every time I have a business, I find some way to try and honor them in the name of the business.
Awesome. Well, absolutely love it. So very inspiring. Love that answer. Thank you for sharing that. Now you go off to Michigan State for undergrad, and I believe you also earned your MBA at Michigan State. Do I have that correct?
Yes, correct. That absolutely.
So,
yep. Spartan. Go green, go white.
Hey, go Sparty, right? We're big. You and I share that. We're both Big Ten fans, and so I just absolutely love that you. We geeked out pretty hard about Big Ten. I think we spent like the first hour of our conversation just talking college football and college sports. But Sidney, just share a little bit about your journey at Michigan State and what led you in college to really put you on the path of how you help companies today.
So when I left high school, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to run stuff. When I got older and was out in the world, either my own thing or somebody else's thing kind of high up. And I love science and math, but when I first went there, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And I found that very quickly, I couldn't take science and math, or they kept pushing me away from science based on, the academic program for law and pre-law. And I said, I want to take math. And I'd taken calculus and physics, college physics in high school. And so it's like, I want to take this. And they said, no, you can't. It's an elective. I want to take this. But finally, they said, look, if you're going to do this, then maybe you should go over to engineering. And so I went over to engineering because I wanted to take science and math, and loved engineering. Majored originally in mechanical engineering because it was I thought the most diverse in what I could do with it after. And it was a great decision for my life because engineering teaches you how to build things, but more importantly, how to solve problems, and using a regimen or structure around that. And so just a fit with my personality, a fit with my interest. And then from that, got involved in manufacturing, my first love in terms of business. So.
That's a huge distinction. I like that, how you're describing, being an engineer is a problem solver. And that's really what you've built your illustrious career over, is helping people solve problems.
Yeah, because I went on, as you mentioned, I went back and got my MBA, again, looking at who was running stuff and what was their background and experiences. And I decided, well, you could have a 10 years worth of experience, or you could shorten that maybe by, going out and getting an MBA, et cetera. So I got my MBA in human resource management and operations, because again, I like the manufacturing and production operations piece. But even there in my master's program at Michigan State, they taught you problem solving from a leadership perspective. So we did it was like case-based studies, et cetera. And so you're always looking at things from what's the business trying to accomplish. And so when I left and went out on, to work in the corporate world, no matter what my role was, I saw myself trying to solve problems, and I, looked at it. And so I would get involved with things that were typically beyond my job duties, but consistent with the organization needs and expectation. And that won me a lot of praise and acclaim. People liked that I had that view and took that approach. And, I got rewarded for that as well. So it worked out both ways.
Well, I love it. And you found your career heavy in banking early on. Do I have that correct?
Well, it wasn't early on. It was later on, actually. So my first, international paper, Mead Corporation, Eastman Kodak, all of those were manufacturing related positions. And I was doing everything within that. I did everything from project management, so capital project management, capital repair project management, to in-house consulting, to product design or manufacturing operation design, manufacturing strategy, plant management, startups, turnarounds, yada, yada, yada. But it got to a point where I had completed every function, done everything on the cost side that you could do. And I really wanted to, move that next level. And that's when I started, venturing out into the revenue side, first in business development. But then the frustration was, well, now I have the revenue side, but I don't have the expense side. So then into general management with PepsiCo, managing business units for them. And then from there, I wanted international experience. And that's when I went into the banking. So, first with Citigroup, managing their global operations for one of their software development divisions. Well, actually, it was an investment division, but it was a software development and in-house business improvement group. And then, their retail banking group, the business, in New York City, Queens section of New York City. And then ultimately to JPMorgan Chase, doing global product management, for them. So, I got a lot of international experience and banking, finance. One of the things, all of those, because, international paper and Mead paper, yes, we're paper. Eastman Kodak, it was equipment and, chemical processing. Pepsi, food and beverage. And then, in banking, both on the domestic and the international side, it was one of those things where you start learning business is just business. An inventory issue is an inventory issue. I don't care whether you're talking about burgers, chips, widgets, gadgets, rollers. Inventory is inventory. The strategies to solve inventory are the same strategies. They don't change. So it's really a question of how good are you at identifying what the issue is so that you can solve it properly.
Wow. That I tell you, that is brilliant. And and you look at your career and guys, and if you're just joining us, we're here with Sidney. Strongly encourage you, welcome you, invite you, connect with Sidney on LinkedIn. Guy is just a true powerhouse, man of integrity. Just you make people feel like you've been friends with him for 100 years. Absolutely love it. And Sidney, was it intentional? Like you've worked for the who's who companies.
Yes.
I mean, look, JPMorgan, Citibank, PepsiCo, and Mead. You've worked for the premier companies. Was that intentional by design? Was it kind of accidental, or you just kind of fell into it? What did that?
No, it was definitely not by design. No. Everything that I did was intentional only in this way.
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted to run stuff. Right. So I said that in high school. I knew I want to run things. So I looked at every opportunity that presented itself to me to say, is it going to give me a tool for my toolbox that ultimately I can run something with? I didn't look at what city it was going to be in, how much I was going to get paid, whether I would get a promotion out of it or any of that other kind of stuff, because that wasn't important for me. And so when someone presented an offer, and I ended up living, we were talking earlier about the quotas, et cetera. I started living and working in some cities that you're like, holy smokes, how did I end up here? And I won't mention them for those folks who are out there who probably are living in those cities.
Yeah.
But you're like, wow, there's not a whole lot of fun stuff going on here. But I was learning something, getting something out of that business experience. I said, I'm going to need and use this later. It gives me an experience and an opportunity, et cetera. And so I was fortunate in that people would see me. So in none of those companies did I ever go seeking for them. I would meet them somewhere or someone and they would say, hey, we like what you're doing over there, or we find it interesting what you're talking about. Would you be interested in doing that here for us, et cetera? Nice. So I was pretty fortunate from that perspective. But I tell, I've been an adjunct professor, and I tell my students and I tell my kids, same thing. Look, if you just focus on doing good and being reliable and dependable, people, one, will seek you out. And two, you'll end up getting where you want to be as long as you're diligent about, being there. Don't take the side path. Don't try to take the easy, course or whatever. Right. You'll end up getting there because people will see your worth and see your value and will, ultimately reward you for it. And if not, you go do it on your own. Yeah. And, you'll reward yourself that way.
Well, brilliant advice. So let's speed up to your company now. And again, absolutely love the name, love the background, kind of a shout out and a tribute to Dad and the discipline, the excellence that he instilled in you and your family. Share with folks now, how are you making the world a better place? What goes on? How are you helping companies and entrepreneurs hit their goals today?
So first of all, I guess the quintessential generalist. I am a holistic approach to things. So I believe kind of fundamentally everything is connected and integrated, and that's true with business as well. So often I would find when I first started consulting, I was doing projects. Somebody would hire me for, we have this, this marketing plan we want to do. We have this inventory issue that we're dealing with. And, one of the things I would always, try to impart on them is, well, that's connected to this thing over here. Well, after, doing that and then running my own business, for a while, came back to this. And what I decided I really wanted to focus on was growth, because growth is the thing where everything kind of culminates in. If somebody's interested in growing, then they're going to really be interested in all of the stuff that they need to do. And that's, kind of the key, keys to the kingdom at that point. And so that's what I work with businesses on: how to grow their revenues, how to grow their profits, and then what goes into that. And one of the key things that all of my involvement with business in all businesses came to the conclusion: there's only 5 things that all growth comes from. There's lots of activities in a business, lots that are important, but growth only comes from 5 of them. And so what I wanted folks to understand is, if you're looking at growing, if you're interested in growing, then show me what you're doing in these 5 categories, in these 5 areas, and what your process and systems are for that. Because my engineering background says if you don't have a system for it, it's not repeatable. It's not going to happen over and over again. So you need to institutionalize that, and systems, process, procedures does it. So I work with folks on my motto or my concept is small change to big things. And for those who are in manufacturing, they know the concept of continuous improvement and making those small incremental changes. And I take that approach, that concept, and say, okay, I'm going to apply that to these big things, these 5 areas that all growth comes from. And I'm going to look at your processes, look at your systems, talk about the things that we can be doing in there. And all of these are behavior-based, process-based, procedure-based, so they cost no money.
Yeah.
Nobody has to wait to get a loan. Nobody has to wait to, to their P&L looks better, till they save up enough money. How long does it take you to say you're going to do something different? Well, you can make that decision now, and you can start doing that thing differently, the next second. And so I focus with them on those things to ultimately generate, growth on both the revenue side and the profit side.
Nice. All right. Damon, I told you this was going to be fire, right?
Yeah, this is huge because, you are getting to the fundamentals of what really needs to change. That is behavior, not necessarily a new system or things like that to really control or really help growth. Because so many times you go into companies, they know what they need to do. They're just not doing it.
Yes. Or they don't know what they need to do. And they've heard, if I have this new gadget, wadget, now it's AI. I got to be an AI for what? What are you going to do with it? Well, I've been told that. Okay. When I managed, again, executive level at JPMorgan Chase, at Citigroup, et cetera, when you had budgets and people would come in and say, I'd like to be able to, get this kind of capital to spend on doing this kind of thing. My first question to them was always, sitting around the meeting, okay, it's my budget. I get to approve this. Tell me what you would do if I said no. And that was always my first question. Now, after a few times you were around the table with me, they start realizing this is going to be the question. Maybe they get a little better at it. But the reason for the question was this: tell me what you're going to do if I say no. I wanted to understand, first of all, how committed are you to this thing? Because if you say, well, I guess we'll have to wait till next year, and then you're not committed to it. Why should I be? That's first.
Yeah.
But the second is, what I'm listening for are the things that you're going to do different if I give you no money, because I know that's an understanding of what needs to change. And so when you start saying, well, I guess what we do, and you start creating a manual way to do it, now I know you understand what it takes to make a change, and I'm willing to support you in that thing. Maybe I'm not going to give you the money yet, because one of the things I do with my clients is to try and show them how much power they have in their own system, structure, resources, without any more money, without any more people, without any more equipment. Look, you have enough right now to make that happen. Let's start doing things different, and you'll start seeing growth. And at some point you can say, now money is going to help me do that, like in terms of capacity building or do it faster, et cetera. But I understand exactly what I need to do and why I need to do it, because I understand what's making that needle move.
Brilliant.
Yeah. That's awesome. Your experience in those budget meetings, it had to be huge, because when you did say no, you probably saw some real innovation happen, and that helped them. So I got told no, I go off, I innovate, I get 50% of the way there where I wanted to go without any money. Now, when I come back to you, I come and this is what we really need, because we see what we need now. Because what I would see is so many times you would think of something or you'd want to do something, but if you didn't have the money, you would find ways to do it. And then you'd realize, boy, I'm glad I didn't spend that money, because we really didn't need that. We needed something else.
Right. And now I have proof in the pudding. Yes. And I'm going to the person for money, a banker, my supervisor, or my manager, et cetera. I'm saying, look, here's how I know that when we spend this money, it's going to be well spent, because these are the results I've got from doing it this way. I just want to ramp this up. I want to accelerate that, et cetera, et cetera. And, again, that's my style and way. So I did that when I was in corporate, and people would tell me no. I say, fine, I'm gonna go do it anyway. I'll figure this out. I know that this is what's going to work. And so I go find a path around it, and I, work that through. Sometimes they would say, you're not supposed to be doing that. That's not your role. That's not your job. And my first question was, would you like me to give the results back? I can give the results back. Again, I'm being a little bit, facetious or whatever, but it was one of those things that nobody wants to give progress and improvement back. They're like, yeah, no, we don't. But next time, could you, get the right approvals, and could you get? But what I wanted to show was this is the right answer. This is the right way to do this. I have confidence and commitment, to doing these things. Now, all I need you to do is to ramp that up. Let's allocate some money and allocate that budget. So I just use the same thing that I was doing for my staff and my teams to say, this is how you can commit, or this is how you can show your commitment and how you can, kind of prove the results are going to be what you're saying they're going to be.
All right, this is so good, Sidney. I have a question for you. I'm asking for a friend right now. Is it true? Are you one of those ask for forgiveness, not permission kind of guys? Is that what I'm hearing?
I am. That if you have the strength of your convictions.
Yep.
And again, this isn't just be a rebel and a radical and just blow stuff up for no reason.
Right.
But it is one of those things that says if you really believe in that, then you have an obligation to go out and show the value and the benefit of that.
Yeah.
And you'll find allies, for those kinds of things. Right. So it never got me fired, but here's what never got me fired. Got me into some conversation sometime. But in my grad school, I had a professor who said, no one gets fired for doing something. Most people get fired for doing nothing.
Wow.
And that struck with me. And again, we're in this, big, graduate business class. And I'm like, I'm never getting fired for doing nothing. One, that's just not my personality, but okay. But rarely do you get fired for doing something.
That is powerful advice. Now, Sidney, I'm taking notes. This is like master class with Sidney right now. And you teach all sorts of different courses. I have like a whole list of things that you teach. And so again, we want to, strongly encourage you guys, connect with Sidney. He is a powerhouse. You mentioned, so we're here talking about small things for explosive growth. I think I heard that you have 5 steps in your continuous improvement or in your process. Did I hear that correctly?
Well,
there's areas.
5 areas.
Five areas.
Let me be clear. These are not Sidney areas. These are not. So business is business.
Yep.
So this is every business everywhere. Any coach, consultant, and I call myself a business growth Imagineer. That is going to work with you. If they're not dealing in all 5 of these areas, then again, there's something being left on the table. So someone who only works with you on SEO is dealing on one snippet of one of the 5 areas. They're not even dealing with the whole one area. They're dealing with a snippet of the 5 of one of the 5. And so the 5 areas of growth, and then it's not going to sound like rocket science once I say it, you're going to go, duh, of course. More leads, conversion of those leads into actual paying customers, deeper relationships by more transactions with each of those customers, higher pricing based on the value proposition that you are delivering, and more profits through the reduction of expenses and the efficiency of your operations and execution. All growth in top line or bottom line are going to come from those areas. Now, there are those 5 areas. There are maybe 40 different strategies that you can use. And depending on how you want to break those down, maybe there's 50 or maybe there's 30, but, basically about 40 strategies within those 5 areas that you can work on. And that's why I'm saying SEO, as an example, is one of the 40 strategies or, within the concept of strategies, that you can do. But it's, basically, when I'm working with folks, leads are the lifeblood of any company. You can't have a sale if you don't first have a lead. So how are you generating that? And if you talk to a salesperson, they're going to say, well, every lead's a good lead. No, it's not.
No.
That's bumpkiss. And so if you are out there saying, when somebody asks you, so Damon, who's your target market? Everybody's my target market. Everybody needs what I do. you don't have a clue as to who your real target market is and what they're trying to solve. And I can guarantee you the marketing communication you're doing with them is ineffective because you're trying to reach everybody saying everything and you're really saying nothing. And so those are the 5 areas where people get in trouble when they're bringing on a resource that's going to help them, is that they're bringing on someone who's very targeted in what they do. And therefore they can only help you with one thing. If I have only one tool in my toolbox, then, the old saying, if I'm a hammer, then everything looks like a nail. And, therefore I'm just going to pound. But I can't do anything that needs to be twisted. I can't do anything that needs to be pasted. I can't do anything. And so if you're using that person thinking, well, they're going to get me growth. No, they just solved a specific kind of a tiny issue for you. And you were expecting now your company to be vastly different. Whose mistake is that? Is it the individual who had that kind of targeted knowledge, or is it yours because you thought they were going to do everything for you? It's a combination of both. If you promised them with your targeted knowledge you're going to do everything, you didn't really understand things either. You were just doing a sale. And if you hired them for doing that, then you didn't understand what you really needed, which is why you get those kind of results.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is such a multifaceted approach that you need to do if you're really going to improve a business. I mean, it just can't be, you just can't be a single, because nothing's going to solve it all.
Yeah. It's like if you were building a house, but you thought you only needed a plumber.
Yeah.
Right. Well, plumbing is important in a house, but it's only going to do 2 things for me. Get me clean water coming in and taking dirty water going out. That's all it'll do for me.
Yeah.
And so, whose fault if I just hire a plumber to build my house? Now, if I'm going to build the whole house, I can hire a general contractor, or I can be a general contractor. So I can go out and hire a general contractor who will find the plumber, the electrician, the carpenter, all those things, the HVAC person, all that stuff. Or I can say, I'm going to be that. And so as a business owner, you have to identify, am I the general contractor, or do I need to hire a general contractor? And if I'm going to be the general contractor, understand I need to manage, all these activities in each one of these areas. If I'm going to, go out and hire that general contractor, then I need to hire someone who can manage all of these areas.
Mm-hmm.
All right, drop the mic right there, man. So, hey, we've got a couple of comments here.
Yeah, we got some comments here. I got to get them going. They've been going. Hey, Schuler, hey, great to see you. Sadakot, thanks. Hello. Whitney's here today. Thanks for stopping by today, Whitney. Timothy, thanks for stopping in from Kenya. Woo. And then someone, I can't see your name, but niche down until it hurts. I heard that from someone else. I think that's Mr. Anderson there.
That's one of my lines, Sidney. That's hysterical. So thank you. At least somebody's listening. That might be my mom, Damon. That might be my mom.
Your mom. She comes in every once in a while.
She pops in every once in a while.
Yeah,
but she doesn't want to admit that she's my mom. She keeps herself incognito. So, Sidney, this is phenomenal. So let's dive in. So, what are some? I'm going to go here. We're talking about small changes. What are some small changes that, when you walk into, hey, Ron Higgs is in the house here, dude. So,
all right.
Hey, Ron, happy Friday, my friend. God bless you, brother. So let's go here, Sidney. When you're going to we target small manufacturers, say that, 30, 50, 100 employees, that type of thing, and we become creatures of habit. We know what we know. And sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Right.
Right.
How do you approach, what are some small things, so if there's a entrepreneur, small manufacturer out there listening to this, they're like, okay, great. This is wonderful. What are some little steps that I could do to start implementing these big changes?
So when I'm working with an existing company in that kind of space, that 30 to, 50 or 30 to 100, one of the first things I do is really look at the, efficiencies, looking at the cost saves. And I tell people very specifically, it's not a cost cutting. You can't cut your way in cost to growth. It never happens. It never works. Anybody who tells you that, just kick them out of your office right then and there. Right. So but you can be efficient in your expense, management, meaning if I'm buying merchant services, Am I asking for the right capabilities, or am I overkill? I got everything. I got the super deluxe package, and all I really needed was the basic fundamental package. So I'm paying for stuff I'm not using. Or the same with telecom service, et cetera. So I'll first go in and start looking at on both the cost of goods sold and on the the fixed expenses, where are there opportunities for real savings? So in one case, I was working with a beverage manufacturer on their cost of goods sold, found them new suppliers and vendors, started looking at the specifications for some of their ingredients. Why are you using organic on that? Is that important in the features of your beverage? Well, no, that's what was being used when we bought the place. So we're just, continuing on. Well, would there be a need for a change? Well, ultimately found out they didn't need organic, had them switch to that, to a more basic fundamental that saved tons in terms of their operating expenses. Same thing with telecom and some other stuff. So I will first work with them on that. Let's look for some areas and ways. And I just did a workshop for SCORE down in Orlando around financial management and understanding financial systems. And there's some very basic ways. Most people don't look at their numbers, don't know their numbers. And if you don't know your numbers, you can't grow your numbers. So I tell them first, start understanding them. And there's a couple of basic fundamental questions that you can ask yourself to really understand your numbers. They're not complicated. And so I will look at my numbers on a regular routine basis. So I start understanding, look, is this to the standard I want? And if not, why not? What's causing that? If this the trend that I've been seeing, and if it is, is that the trend that I want? Or, when something blips, why did that blip occur? Good blip or bad blip? So a lot of times we have a good blip, and I used to see this all the time when I was in corporate. Good blip happens, and people are like, yes, we did this, and pounding their chest, and I'm like, they have no clue. Next month is going to be back down, and they're going to have to try and explain that. Yep. And I'm waiting for the next month going, so last month you said it was this, but this month is bad. What happened? Well, humming. So if I truly understand what it, causing that, then I can change that. If I know this is what made it go up and I want it to go up, I'll do that over and over and over again.
Yes.
If I know this was what made it go down and I want it to go up, then I say, stop doing that. And let's change something else. So I spent the first few weeks just on that to find the save. But then the next thing that I do almost always is on, the more popular term might be branding. I call it market dominating position. So helping them identify and you just use the phrase niche down until it hurts, right? So it's understanding what is truly unique about you that no one else can say. And when you understand what's truly unique about you that no one else can say, then you start understanding, well,
right. A cliffhanger.
Yep. Let's see what happens here. This is the wonderful thing about life.
Man, that was I don't know about you, I'm taking tons of notes here. So this was phenomenal. So talking about your unique value proposition on what really separates, that really separates you from the market. And Damon, I don't know what you thought of when it comes to a book, right? Blue Ocean Strategy, right there, right?
Yeah, that's a huge one. It's a huge one around this. But he said something here too, and I'm sure he's going to get in here soon. But being a general contractor for your business, right? It's how you really, as a business owner, if you're that person in that decision, if it's not someone else on your executive team, are you going to take the time to learn what you need to learn to be a good general contractor for resources for your business? Or should you hire somebody like Sidney to do this? That is a huge decision point that I didn't really consider until we were talking today.
Right. Well, and it's a great point. And I love the hammer analogy, right?
Oh, yes.
Our dear friend Jeffrey Graham taught me that. He said, whatever your expertise is, that's what that. So like when you bring in a consultant and say they're an expert at Facebook ads. Yeah. Well, when if I'm an expert at Facebook ads, when I come to your business, well, guess what problem you have? Hey, you need Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Or whatever the hammer, right?
Yeah.
And, even though if we need to turn a screw, or you need windows put in, or you need something other than the nail, that is a great analogy. Now, one thing that was phenomenal that I don't know if I've really digested this, you cannot cut your way to growth.
I was just going to say that, because that is something that actually I've been talking with clients about a lot recently, because listen, we need to get efficient, but it's never going to replace good sales.
Right.
And that's the thing that he just hit on really well. We can save some money by being more efficient in what we do, and that will carry forward as we get all the way, but you can't save your way to being an exceptional company.
That's right. So Sidney, dude, you left us
Well,
hanging.
we were just going for it, man.
Team and I had our pens ready. We're like right on the edge of where we left off.
Best laid plans of mice and men. So I think you were asking, I was on to the part of talking about the next step that I focus on after the expense saves, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly.
The real thing is about understanding what's unique about you. And so that you can then really understand why you are able to help someone else. But then you have to understand their pain points. What's the problem they have that they don't want? And what's the benefit that they want that they don't have? And then how do you use what's unique about you to eliminate those two pain points? Most people don't know what's really unique about them. They have all these features and functions that they'll talk about. Our gadget will do this. Our gadget will do that. Our gadget, we've got 30 years in the business. We've got we got the best trained people. Give a lot of platitudes, but they really don't know what's truly unique about you. And then if you don't also then understand what is it that they really want, what's their pain point? What are they trying to get rid of? If you understand what's unique about you, and you can start talking about how you use that to get rid of that problem, to bring that benefit, now you have a message that you can start communicating to them, but you also understand them well enough to know the other things that are important or critical to them about that they're dealing with. And you can start bringing that information and resources to them. Oh, I know you are looking at or these kinds of things or issues from our last conversation for you and your business. I found someone, or I know this, or I saw this article. I thought this would be useful for you. We've added that as a feature to our product and our service. Now you can start really connecting with those folks, and they'll start finding value in what you're doing. And you'll start. So when we start talking about excellent customer service and better product design, all of that fits then into product and service design. You can't design an effective product if you don't know that. If you start doing that, it will start feeding into your pricing strategy, what your prices should be based on the value proposition, or what they shouldn't be based on that. It's like, why are you only charging that when you're doing all this? And so all of the other questions that are going to come up, all the other answers that you need to have for your business, start from that market dominating position, assessment, understanding, knowledge. And so I will always work with them kind of second. And if it's a startup business, I start with that first. And so those are the two key things. Everything will flow from that. And I do the savings one because it's money in the pocket right now.
Yeah.
And
everybody likes money in the pocket right now.
Yes.
And also, to be, selfish, it also shows my value right up front. You know what? Yep. I just saved you 20% on your expense lines. I paid for myself for the entire year, et cetera, et cetera. And now let's get on to some other work. And, so it serves both purposes, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you laid it out well, Sidney, that first of all, as an outside resource for that business owner, they want to know that you're going to provide value. Coming in, looking through the costs and finding things that are going to help them in the beginning to be more efficient with their spending is a great way to show that a value initially. And it gives you the time to really understand the business enough to work on the other things that they don't see that helps to drive that long-term value. And the long-term value is where they make the most benefit, but that beginning part of finding those early wins really allows that owner and that team to go, okay, Sidney is helping us now. Let's keep going and doing what we need to do, because and then ultimately you drive much bigger gains over time.
Yep. It's the when you start talking about leadership for change and change management, it's one of those things that's, yes, you have to build the need for change, the burning bush, the burning building, the burning whatever you're in, burning hospital, But to your point there, Damon, then you have to find the small little wins up front.
Yep.
That keeps people, focused, motivated, etc. That allows you to, to talk about, to require the pain that they're going to have to do in some other areas.
Yeah.
There's going to be work. And I always tell people, this is no foo-foo dust. There's no growth foo-foo dust. You just sprinkle on and woof, there you go. And so there's going to be work. And if you're not interested in doing the work, then don't think about growth. Don't talk about growth.
Yeah, exactly.
Damon, we got some comments. Whitney dropped a couple of good ones here.
Yeah, so. Whitney said, oh, this is fire right here. And then she said, you can't save your way to growth. That was a good one. And then Gail said, most people don't know that what is unique about what they do and what they offer. And that's a huge thing, to be able to differentiate yourself, but also know your company, know what you really do well. And oftentimes people don't take enough opportunities to talk to their existing customers and go, why the heck do you do business with us? Right. What is really special? Why didn't you use somebody else? And
we get so focused on the sale, versus, the old saying, seek first to understand before being understood. We don't take the time to really understand, who is it we're going after and what's important to them. And if I'm doing that, then I'm really being a better service to them. I'm being a better person, first and foremost, but I'm also being a better service to them. And ultimately, it's going to be a better service to me because I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Right. And I can explain that to my staff. Do you know why we do this? Do you know why we turn that knob to 3, not to 4? Because when we turn it to 4, here's what happens. And here's what our clients say. Oh my gosh, never let that thing get to 4. Yeah. So now what they're doing with on a day-to-day basis, and there used to be this concept, now I'll tell you how old I am. It was called the House of Quality. And what it did is it actually took from the end user all the way back to the line person, showing how this was the feature that they wanted, needed, thought was important. Here's the product description piece that led to that. Here's here's the knob at the machine that gave that temperature, that gave that color, that gave that. So now when you're talking to operators and you're creating SOPs, I understand this is why that's important and critical. And if you can't do that, then you can't get your people committed and motivated to excellence. They're just doing a task for whatever. What difference is it 3 or 4? Whoa. Yeah. Difference? Let me tell you. Here's what happens. The world goes to heck in a handbasket, and here's why, and da. And if it doesn't go to heck in a handbasket, then don't tell them, don't turn it to 4, because they're going to do it one day just to see, and they're going to say nothing happened, so I shouldn't listen to anything else you have to say. So you're very clear and directed on this is what's important and critical. This other stuff doesn't matter,
Yeah, that's great. We got one more comment here I want to hit real quick. Sam Rick said, hello, hi, everyone.
Hey, Sam.
Thanks for dropping by here today. That is so true. And we used to run into that in manufacturing. You could be running a process, and then it's really important when you're doing, like you talked about, beverage industry, and we were in the molding industry, where you're going to make tens of millions of something every single day. Your process control, we used to do, and I'm not going to get too technical here, but we used to do design of experiments to really see what effects of temperature, pressure, time, all these kind of things would go. And we would set these parameters, because then Damon, who watches the machine controls, or we set the controls on the machine so they have limits, it would automatically stop or beep and tell people that, hey, there's something wrong. We're outside of our normal operating limits. But what you can do by understanding those things, like you said, is you can create very consistent products.
Yep.
And it's so interesting when you look back on what you're talking about and you think of things that are around us every single day. And I always like to look at automobiles. In the 50s, an automobile, you'd be lucky to get 75 to 100,000 miles out of it, maybe, if you're lucky. Now, just about every automobile, you expect it to run a couple 100,000 miles if you want to drive it that long with reasonable maintenance. Well, the designs have got a little better, but the consistency of the manufacturing has got so much better that everything just works better. And it's crazy how that adds up over time, and how that can really make a huge impact on your entire organization.
So I'm glad you mentioned experimental design, because that's one of the concepts that I use to explain why the 5 things, because these are the 5 variables that you need to work on and fix and control to drive growth. But it's also so in a total quality management concept, it's CP, capacity, or process capability. When you're looking at what's your process capable of. And all quality really is saying, my process does this, my customer wants this, I'm good. As long as I'm keeping this within this, I'm good. But to get there, what I always do is I try to take variability and just tamp it down. Wherever it is. If customer wants to be up here and your variability is way down here, that's fine. We're just going to tamp it down. Because if you do that, if you can tamp it down, then you can control it. And once you know what it takes to control it, we can move it anywhere we want to move it. But if you can't control it, then you can't move it either. And so the easiest thing to do is just reduce the variability. But that starts with understanding what's going on, what you're trying to do, et cetera.
And that works in every business. And I don't care what part of the business. I don't care if it's Damon cleaning the bathrooms.
Yes.
If you know the process and you measure the results, you can improve the process and the outcomes. And it's just so critical. And you talk about your 5 areas, it works in every area. It doesn't matter if you're trying to get more leads, you're improving conversion and the other areas you talked about. And that is where so many businesses, as they start, we're kind of chaotic getting things going, but then we need to build those processes, because otherwise we don't have any idea. Can't get real control over the processes. And that's where they stay. They stay kind of in that chaotic thing. So
because we're afraid to do anything for fear that we'll blow everything up. It's like, because you don't understand it. Pricing is one of those areas. Again, one of the areas where all growth comes from, that people generally don't want to touch it. They, getting the, I do a talk about, X number, 5 number, 7 number of, effective pricing strategies, and one that you never want to use, right? Most people don't want to do anything to increase price because they're afraid they're going to lose every one of their customers. But the math is pretty powerful and straightforward. It says, look, for a 10% increase in price, you'd have to lose about 25%. It's either 25 or 35% of all your existing clients.
Yep.
Do you think that many people are going to leave for a 10% improvement or increase in your price? Not likely. Now, I'm not telling you to go run out and increase your price 10% right now, but I'm just saying there's sensitivities that we think are attributed to things that we don't know, and therefore we make bad or wrong decisions.
Yeah.
So every decision's emotional, right? It is.
Right.
It is.
Either fear or greed, right? Those are our 2 main motivations, either fear or greed. Man, Sidney, time is flying by. I know, we're way over, and I know we could talk forever. One question that I would love to ask you, vast, illustrious, incredible corporate career that you've built, took the leap of faith, jumped into entrepreneurship. Through your career, what is the best advice that you've ever received, maybe that you'd want to pass along to your younger self, or a young entrepreneur, or even an old entrepreneur like myself? What is the best business advice that you've ever received?
So I'll give you the best one that I received, and then I'll give you 2 that I learned from my experiences. The best that I ever received came from a supervisor that I had that was really about feedback and listening to feedback. And he was giving me a review, and it was a really good review. But one of the things he said he wanted me to work on was my communication. I'm thinking, I'm a great communicator. What is he talking about? And you start talking about, when you're in a discussion, blah, blah, somebody says something to you, he goes, and I can see your brain is, in motion, trying to come up with a response back to him. He goes, sometimes when people give you feedback, you just need to say, thank you, I'll think about that. And I'm like, all right, I can do that. But when I started doing it, all of a sudden, I started realizing how much more present I was with what they were saying, because I didn't need to respond. All I needed to say was, thank you, I'll think about that. And so that was something that helped me out a lot, but it fit into that, what I started to learn about the again, seek first to understand, that I don't need to have everybody understand me. If I understand them, I can, figure a solution for whatever's, needs to be done, et cetera. And Joe, so that was great feedback that I received. John Moore was his name. One of the best supervisors, I had. The other is, more of what I learned, and it was around being that dependable, reliable, responsible. And I learned this by accident, and then I applied it and found results from it. Early in my career, when I was with International Paper, they used to use me a lot to kind of show new engineers around. When they were coming in to interview and and there was one I was showing around, and they had a change in schedule, and they asked, could you take him, or we need to get him to this place, do you want us to, take care of this, have this person call, or can you do that? I said, no, I'll figure it out. I'll take care of it. Don't worry. And the guy stopped me. He goes, "This is why we like you." And I'm like, because I'm taking this guy to lunch and doing, wow, what is that? So I'm thinking, oh, what do you mean? And he goes, because no matter what comes up, you are responsible and reliable enough that you'll take care of it. You'll get stuff done. Nobody has to babysit you. And that was the way we were raised, to be kind of self-reliant, not independent, but self-reliant. And one of the things I started learning through corporate life and life in general, people love folks to be dependable, to be that they can rely on them and depend on them. So not that they are dependent on, but that they can be depended on. So that's one of the things I give as advice to people in their career. Look, you want to move, go somewhere, be the person that they depend on, rely on. That nobody is irreplaceable, but if they find you hard to replace because you get so much stuff done, good things will happen for you and to you. So, that would be the big advice I give. So.
Phenomenal, man. Where were you 30 years ago? I could have used that.
Yeah,
advice, so
no doubt.
Sidney, this is fantastic. Again, I want to thank you so much for spending time with us as we start winding down. First off, Damon, let's give a big shout out to everybody that joined us today.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Man,
me too. Thank you for taking the time to, listen. For those who are out there, we appreciate that.
Absolutely. And so, as a matter of fact, we have a lot of folks that have joined us here today. Sidney, how about a big round of applause for Sidney Wormsby for just dropping the mic multiple times, just shedding all sorts of brilliance and wisdom with us. Sidney, I cannot express my thanks. Any parting thoughts, words of wisdom that you want to share with folks as we close out, as we wind down?
I guess the only thing that I would reiterate is that if you're wanting to grow your business, you have enough right now. So there's power in whatever you have right now in terms of resources. It's about your process and procedures and behaviors. So if you can change those things, and if you're willing to change those things, your business can be transformed. So
awesome. Another, and the feedback comment, as a matter of fact, we just had that on Monday, Damon, same thing.
Yep.
Like, feedback is a gift. I know I'm not great at that. You want to be defensive or, push back on it. But I love that. Just listen and say thank you. What a great way. Sam drops a comment here for us, Damon.
Big lessons show positive attitude to feedbacks. That's a big one right there. Thanks for dropping that, Sam.
So, all right, guys, we're going to close out.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Sidney. We appreciate you sharing your time, your passion, your enthusiasm, your brilliance. This was just absolutely phenomenal. Damon, as we'd like to close out and tell everybody, just go out and be someone's inspiration, just like our dear friend Sidney was today. And we're going to be back here on Monday. And so please connect with Sidney on LinkedIn. First off, connect with him, chat with him, learn from him. And again, Sidney, thank you for sharing your brilliance today. This has been wonderful.
I really appreciate the opportunity and look forward to another one later on. So if I can ever be of assistance.
Awesome.
All right, let's take it away, Damon.
All right, everybody, thanks for being here today. We got Sam and Whitney and Gail and Schuler and Sadicott. Thanks so much for being here today. I hope I didn't miss anybody. We always appreciate you stopping by and dropping the comments. Thanks for Sidney coming by and dropping so many golden nuggets of wisdom. If you got in late, go back to the beginning and start this thing from the beginning, because you will appreciate it and learn a lot from it. We will be back again next week. Have an awesome rest of your week.